Hello and welcome to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rich, and as the founder of the Bold Life Movement and a fellow coach for more than 7 years, I know the challenges that many of you face when launching or growing your coaching business. And I'm here to pull back the curtain on the coaching industry and help you overcome roadblocks to make the impact you were born to make. Each week, I'll be interviewing successful coaches from every corner of the industry to share exactly how they have managed to generate massive impact and income. From strategy to psychology, we cover it all. This show is presented to you by Transformation Academy, a global marketplace of courses and coaching certifications. So whether you are already part of our epic community or you're brand new to this show, if you're ready to learn what it takes to turn your passion for service into a profitable business, then keep listening. You are in the right place. Welcome back to the Profitable Coach Podcast. This is episode 20, and today I'm chatting with the beautiful Danette Torgeson. Danette is one of those individuals who has really managed to take one of her lowest points and turn it into her life's work. She really embodies the phrase, "Your mess is your message." And on today's episode, you're going to hear about a few of the different modalities that she has turned to over the years that have allowed her to create an incredibly beautiful, rich, peaceful life. And we talk about so many different incredible resources on today's episode. So if you want to get access to those, head to theprofitablecoach.com/020 for episode 20. Without further ado, please welcome the one and only Danette Torgeson. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Profitable Coach Podcast. Today, I have with me the beautiful, both inside and out, Danette Torgeson. Hello, Danette.
Hello, Kimberly. It's so good to be here, be with you.
Yeah, I'm so grateful because Danette is one of those friends that has such a full repertoire of coaching modalities and skills and personal inquiry that she has collected over the years. And so as a friend, I'm lucky enough that she's one of my close friends. As a friend, she's someone that I really trust when I turn to. But as a coach, she's someone that I really look up to because I feel like she has so many different insights that I just haven't yet explored. So for people who aren't familiar with you, Danette, will you tell us a little bit about what your current specialty is?
Well, I would say the number one thing that I use in terms of a modality is called compassionate inquiry. And compassionate inquiry is a recent approach that was created by Gabor Mate. For those who haven't heard of him, I highly recommend they look him up and look into his work and search compassionateinquiry.com if you're interested in learning more. I'm sure I'll describe quite a bit of what it's about throughout this call, but it really, really took me to the next level, both personally and professionally. The reason for that is because it really deals with the subconscious mind and the childhood ultimately, because that's when the subconscious mind was created. And I had done so many, like you said, I had done so many modalities because quick history of me is that this work, self-development, self-help, all of that has been in my life since pre-conception, like before I was conceived. My parents, they met at a self-development seminar called Landmark Forum, Landmark Education. I'm sure many people have heard of that. So that's where they met. They were both volunteering. My mom turned into a seminar leader there. My dad, it goes way back because prior to even knowing he was willing to have children, it was a rebirthing, which is basically breathwork session that told him, I can have children. Love is real. Talking to the trees, like it was a whole awakening for him. And I love that story because it proves the power of body work, breath work, and also the fact that I wouldn't exist without it, truly.
I love thinking of that particular breathwork facilitator 30-something years ago having no idea the ripple effect that that one session would have. Like, what if they didn't host the breathwork session that day and your dad didn't get to have this awakening, and all of the clients that you've gotten to work with since then didn't get to have the shifts that they've had? Like, it's really mind blowing to think of the butterfly effect, the ripple effect that we can have when we choose to step into our power and our call to serve. So you've been ready. You've been destined for this for a long time, as we've just learned.
Yeah,
And
that
so,
beautiful. Thank you for pointing that
yeah.
out.
And so I want to know, why compassionate inquiry? Since you do have experience in so many things and you see the benefit in so many modalities, why was this the one that really drew you in most recently?
So many of the things I had tried really focused on the mind and reframing things, really analyzing the past, and that's all great. Analyzing the past, working with different ways of perceiving it, motivation, learning how to work with the ego, shadow work, all of these things that seem to consistently miss the mark in terms of, yes, but the ego is the child. So when we just talk about the ego and sometimes we often talk about it as an enemy, then we're actually making an enemy of our child self. And that creates this battle within us that just keeps us suffering. It keeps us stuck. It keeps us spinning. And I was on that roller coaster for a long time, and I would feel really good at times, and I'm like motivated and I'm ready to go and I'm feeling great. And then I would just get this low and this crash of like, no, everything is shit. I'm sorry. Can I swear on this?
Yes, and can relate.
Okay. And so I was really tired. I was really tired of that roller coaster and that intensity game. And I knew from meditation and different things how I could feel, because also Vipassana meditation has been a huge part of my practice. So I knew that I could feel really balanced. And so when I found compassionate inquiry, it was this key that really pulled all of it together, really included all the things I'd already worked on. It didn't dismiss them, but now it's showing me, oh, the only thing I was missing was that the child is still stuck in my body in terms of its memory, all these different parts of me that has these memories. And I was getting stuck in that state, in that child's place, in that time, even though I'm here in the present. But it's such a trick of the mind. We really believe that we are in the present when we're actually stuck in a past memory, perceiving and projecting this old belief of the past, this old emotion of the past. So when I became aware of this and I realized that my present self was the answer, was the healer that my child was waiting for, was the parent that my child was waiting for. And that no one else could do that for her. No one else could do that for me. And that was very empowering at the same time. Yes, I needed guidance, I needed support, but I had to do the work and I was the ultimate answer. And to give that to my clients, I think is a real paradigm shift, because they don't ever believe that they need me or any other person or any parent, any relationship, any mate, any family member to be that person to save them.
And does that involve any sort of education, or do they just sort of internalize that from experience with you? Like, do you need to tell them that that's going to be how it is? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, for sure. It's a pretty much 50-50 split of theory and practice. Because I think it's really important for us to, we have these minds, we have these beautiful, brilliant minds that want a little bit of a grasp of what the hell is going on. And that helps provide more safety and trust in the process.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that I love about your coaching journey is that
it's different than a lot of people's. So, going as far back as your parents have been in this world, even before you were born, to you finding your own way to the work, will you give us a little bit of history of how you came to be in this position of service and why you felt like you heard the call?
Wow. Well, that might take the rest of the time we have left. I'll give the speeded up version as best as I can. So, I really believe, actually, I don't know if you know, I'm going to scratch that. You might not know, but I really believe that the people that choose this work are wounded, that we've gone through some shit. And in my experience, everyone has. But, what makes it so that someone is called to this work to actually help others, assist others, provide the space for others? And that, I still am fascinated by that question. But for me, my parents, they did this work. They loved this work. They were passionate about it, but they also had tremendous trauma. And I think part of what brought them to this world of unconventional methods was their pain and just needing help. So, initially that the work that they did, and maybe that's also why I'm so passionate about compassionate inquiry, that the work that they did sometimes created a spiritual bypass, which didn't necessarily, well, it helped in ways, but it didn't help in a lot of ways. And I started to resent this work.
Mm-hmm.
And
I can relate to that.
Oh, really?
Well, it's my biggest internal conflict with doing the work. We were sort of chatting about this last night. Mm-hmm. It's like how to let my highest self love unconditionally everything that's happening and be totally accepting of what is, and also allow my human self to be human and to feel the effects of hurtful moments, hurtful relationships, feeling stuck, and not check out, not bypass it all.
Exactly.
So yeah, I can relate to resenting that practice, that reaction.
Yes. And so I think it's healthy that we have this skill called denial, right? It is healthy, or avoidance. But over time, anything overused is going to start to hurt in some way. And that is really what ended up hurting me as a child. So I experienced my own degrees of trauma, and for a long time I was like, oh, I always compared myself to other people. Everyone else has gone through so much worse. Who do I think I am? And that shame just kept piling on, that I felt this way, but I shouldn't. So what really helped me, so I went on my own spiral of self-destruction from practically, I started drinking at 13 years old. And even though I was very ambitious and I was a wrestler and I was very did all the things at school, like student council president and all these things, I big nerd, proud of it.
So cute.
And I ended up just saying, because I just pushed so hard all the time. I was always pushing, trying to prove that I was worthy. And then I just said, I don't care. I just gave it up. I was so angry, and I had so much built up anger inside of me. And I was imploding and exploding all at once. And I didn't talk to my parents I didn't talk to my dad for longer, but my mom for 4 years, when we were very close. And anyone who knows me now, which you do, you can see we're very close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting chills. I know Danette on a personal level, and I did not know this.
Oh yeah. It was a very, talk about dark night of the soul, and it lasted years. So when I was 23, and this was like drugs, partying, alcohol, just no real foundation of support for myself. And And then 23, I finally, I hit my rock bottom. You asked me before this call, is anything off limits? And I said never. So I will say that I ended up, my rock bottom was having sex with my best friend at the time's boyfriend. And I say that openly because I know how much people hide. I know from experience for me how much I've hid and how much it helps to just speak and say it and express it, and the permission that it gives all of us. So I say that because it helps me, and I hope it helps someone else to explore self-forgiveness. So yeah, that was the wake-up call that I needed. I didn't know that I was capable of that. And I went to work. I became a hermit, and not necessarily healthy initially, but I went and dove into spiritual practice and meditation and ego shadow work from the time I was 23 to heavily until 28. So 5 years, really deep in the
Saturn return
work. Yeah. Yeah. And it was like that kind of master sensei training, because my mentor at the time was very educated in communications and ego work, and brilliant in terms of what he would channel, a mix of spirituality as well. But what I learned from him, and this is my progression, was that it was missing the compassion for the child. And so I started to realize, I was still beating myself up inside of that work, that style of work. And that's when I found compassionate inquiry about 3 years ago now. And within all of that, became a meditation teacher, instructor, but officially started coaching people in 2019, and also doing group work, seminars. And then finally, I think just over 2 years ago, I started working with a financial tech company and helping the organization, the individuals, right? Just anyone who wanted to talk to me initially is how it started. They could come and talk to me about professional issues, personal issues. And then it has transformed over a couple of years, to me working with teams, working with the leadership, and so it's a mix of micro and macro. And so it's a real constant challenge in stretching my skills and abilities, and I'm learning a lot. So, yeah. So
there's so many things that I want to pull out of what you just said to highlight for people. One is, well, first of all, my higher self is like, oh, thank God she only had to wait till she was 23. Because you can imagine how much deeper and darker that dark night of the soul could have been if it was 20 years later. And maybe how impossible it could have felt to crawl out of it. So, I'm grateful to your higher self for sending you that message at that young age. And really just wanting to highlight, we talk about this in the Transformation Academy courses, that your mess can be your message. Like the lowest lows, the things that you have the most shame over, could be the thing that catapults you into your destiny, and could be the thing that helps people who are listening right now or who are reading your social media to feel like you understand them and you can help them because you've been where they are. Whereas if we only ever shared the shiny bits, then it can be really unrelatable. And, if you're watching us on YouTube or seeing us on social media, Danette is incredibly poised and elegant and put together. And so people who have their own stories about what that means could project onto you something that's inaccurate about your heart and your soul and what you are capable of. And so by sharing what it is that you've experienced and what it's taught you, it allows people to relate to you on such a deep level. And I'm just so grateful for your bravery to do that. So that's one thing. And the other thing that I want to shout out is the trajectory that your coaching took. So you started in 2019. That's not that long ago. That's 4 years ago. And so many people have a desire to be in a corporate setting. Will you tell me a little bit about how you found that opportunity and created this role for yourself at the fintech company?
So that's an interesting, pretty long-winded story as well. I'll keep it as short as possible. So the quick thing to say would be that my mom had a connection with the person that owns the company. Now, many people are going to say, "Oh, well, that's why," right? And I'm sure many people will try to take that and run with it, and I'm sorry, but play victim of their life. But this is really what happened. Okay, I had a vision at Vipassana. I was in Vipassana meditation retreat, and it's a 10-day silent meditation retreat, and you're meditating for like 10 hours a day. And so it's a challenge. But by like the 8th day, it's different for everyone, but for me, around the 7th, 8th day, all of a sudden my body is a lot more clear, a lot more settled. My mind is not as active. And these messages from wherever you want to say they're from start downloading and coming in. Messages, visions, ideas, creation, creativity. It just starts birthing inside of me. And I have all of this zest for life. Like I just want to get out there and create. And I have chills just thinking about that body headspace that I get into in those retreats, and other things create that. But I've experienced those profound channeling profoundly at Vipassana. Now, this one time I had this whole line of thought, which I know I'm supposed to be meditating and the mind is supposed to be a little quiet and I'm supposed to be, not focusing on the thoughts, but I was like, no, I am thinking about this. I want to think all about this. So I spent the entire hour thinking about me and the idea of me going into tech companies. So I realized there's suffering in this world. I want to be a part of doing something about it. I want to be on that side of history. And what is causing a lot of damage, in my opinion, is the tech industry, in terms of mental health, the social media, the way, Facebook and Instagram and certain things, the algorithms, the ways that it's used, the ways that we're sold, manipulated, right, brainwashed, and just what could it look like if there was a more heart-centered approach, right? That it wasn't so head-centered, masculine. I'm not talking about men, I'm talking about masculine energy. And what would it look like if there was more of a balance between yin and yang at the top, right? That's really leading the way in the tech world. And now we have AI coming. So this is a big conversation. And that really inspired me 3 years ago. I was like, I want to be a part of that. So I want to consult or be a contractor consultant for tech companies. 3 years later, I was actually watching, for anyone who knows the show Billions, me and Kim were just talking about this last night, and I was watching the show for about 6 months. And I watched this woman in the show, Wendy Rhodes, and I was like, that's pretty much the job that I'm talking about that I want. And I just watched her and I watched her move, and I like felt the connection. Like I felt my body light up. I felt the emotions that I would feel in that role. I let my body experience it, not just my head, not an affirmation, I could do that. Yeah, I can do that. No, I am doing that. I can feel it. I can feel what it would be like to be in that office or to speak to these people or to guide meditation with a group of these people, engineers and all of that. Now, a couple months after finishing that show, I had a dream and I was in the backseat of a sports car with Axelrod. Axelrod is the lead guy in this show. And I see the full moon and I said, Axelrod, slow down, look at the moon. You have to look at this moon. So this is whole symbolism of he's driving really hard and heavy, like in a masculine energy. And I'm like, here's the moon. Can we include that too? Can we slow down and embrace that side of life? It was a very intense dream that really downloaded in me, very lucid moment. And about two months or a month after that dream, I got the call, like it fell out of the sky. I need Wendy Rhodes from Billions.
I have chills.
Oh my God. So the reason I tell the whole story is because it wasn't just my mom having this connection. Yes, that helped. Yes. But I had to create the space in my life for that connection to come to me.
Totally.
Right. I had
also,
to do the work.
Exactly. I was going to say, if you weren't ready, it wouldn't matter what your mom or your dad or your cousin, it doesn't matter who they know. You need to be ready to hear the call. And I am of the mind that all the relationships we have when we come into this life, we contracted with them before we came. We get to choose how we play out. Like our soul still has free will when we're down here, but it had the free will to make the contract ahead of time, right? Like that's sort of where my spiritual beliefs lie. And so if you and your parents had the contract before you came that they were going to be in the work before you arrived, you were going to have a really challenging chapter where you were estranged from each other so that you would be catapulted into the work and then eventually come back together so that she could help make the right connection and you would be ready to receive that connection. And then now the work that you're doing inside that company could exist. But all of that took so many other elements rather than just, oh, my mom made an introduction. And I love how you called out anyone who is maybe feeling a little activated by that, owning that. Where else might that victim mentality be showing up? Because when you're entering into the coaching industry, it's going to be easy to compare yourself to other people. It's going to be easy to lean on the stories. Oh, she's younger, she's prettier, he's louder, he's more confident. How did they get to be that way? How can you be your own version?
It's a great question because I really often with my clients wish that I had a snippet, a little video of myself 15 years ago, 10 years ago, even 7 years ago, just to show that like I was not like this before, right? The power of transformation, the ability for us to actually change our personality, it is real. It is a real thing because our personality isn't real.
Will you speak to that a little bit more? I'd love to know what are some aspects of your personality that once felt like who Danette is that you've now shifted into something else that you get to practice and embody?
So I used to be very shy, very timid. I'm still a little introverted. I can see it pop up, especially like groups. One-on-one, I love it. I love communicating now, but before even one-on-one, this is the funniest thing to me. The most extreme transformation is that I hated vulnerability. Like that, I laugh because it's so opposite of who I am now. I was so petrified and angry at vulnerability. Like I didn't want to go deep. I remember screaming to my mom, why does it have to mean something? Like, why does everything have to mean something? I was so in self-pity. I really was. I don't want to feel this pain. And I didn't feel the support to go there. So I just want to reject that it's there. So that's a big one. The other one is that I used to be very prideful about my ability to compete with men. I was very much so like, I'm going to prove to you that I'm equal. I'm going to prove that I'm also like masculine. And so that was a huge shift for me to realize, yes, I have these beautiful masculine qualities, but I am also so feminine and I embrace men rather than fight them now. And about 80% of my clients are men, which I think that also can prove that I have that ability now, because I used to try to fight them and be like them, that I think I have an ability to communicate with them and get through to them. So that was a beautiful turn of events. And the other really huge transformation is my mindset around abundance and financial wealth. So I am from poverty in a lot of ways. My growing up, we didn't have a lot at all. We were hippies traveling in a van. We didn't have car seats. We didn't have seat belts. Like, my mom might be really mad at me for saying this on camera, but yeah, we were hippies. And my dad came from like middle class, but he hated money. He resented it. My mom came from poverty, deep poverty, and she, I was thinking about this morning. I was journaling, and I'm like, my mom is really regal. Like, you would never guess that she comes from poverty, because she holds herself in such a regal way. And that just, to me, shows that money doesn't necessarily make a person's energy, right? The energy of poverty or abundance and wealth is really in that inner spirit. And when I started to learn that I deserved abundance just like anyone else, and that this is just a personality, right? As we just discussed, this is an illusion, something that I believed for so long based on my environment, but that it's not who I am. And I am God's creation. We all are. And God is abundance. So my ego is the only thing blocking that flow.
Yeah. Well, first, I would say that you definitely got it from your mama, because I would very much consider you regal.
Aww.
I hope that people go watch this, and so they can see your energy and like what you radiate and your elegance. And it's it makes the story even richer that you used to practice competition with men, because your energy now is so elegant, is like really the word that I keep coming to. And I think that pulls in that masculine, because elegance to me requires strength. It's like an inner knowing, an inner confidence, an inner groundedness. And that the story I make up is that a masculine energy person can trust that, because it's unwavering, and yet still soft enough to feel like it can hold the space and it can hear anything that the masculine might be bringing to it without judgment. And so to me, those are all very regal, queenly qualities. And yeah, again, I encourage anyone who's not watching this on YouTube to go check it out and get to experience Danette's energy for yourself.
Oh, well, first of all, can I just say that I've felt enriched by everything you've said so far. Like, it's just really, you have such a way of seeing the world. So thank you for that insight and that generosity to share with me. And I want to also say that I really love vision boards, and I
love where this is going.
And you just reminded me, because I have on my vision board right now for this year the making of a queen. So I think you just tied that one up for me. So thank you. I believe you. I receive that. I accept.
Yeah. I want to talk about vision boards for a second. And then I'm going to bring us back to abundance, because there's one thing that Danette and I uniquely get to share on the show that I've never talked about before. But in terms of vision boards, I'm in a financial mastermind, and I had this realization a couple weeks ago that a few very specific images in my vision book. I make a vision book. I'll actually link in the show notes a video that I posted on Instagram a couple years ago about how I make this vision book, the tools I use, how I, pull the images together, and why I use a book. But in this book, I had images of a jewelry line, an oracle card deck, a yacht, and a partnership. And I recently realized that the person I had been dating, even though we're not currently dating, looked exactly like the images on this vision book. And, nothing in the vision book said that this particular image was going to be my lifetime partner. It just said, like, this energy is what I want to feel. And that is what I felt with this person. And I didn't even notice that multiple of the images, they're paintings, right? They're artistic. They're not literal photographs, the partnership ones. I was like, how does this person look exactly like the partner that I'm with? And it was blowing my mind. And then the yacht, I realized, looks exactly like a yacht that I'm going on next May with a group of friends. And that was like a moonshot, putting a yacht on there. I had no reason to think that anyone in my close circle would, plan this, pay for this. And yet here it is coming to fruition. So I encourage people, recognize things that you've put on vision boards in the past that have come to reality so that you can remind yourself the power of it. And if you've never created one, do so. Do you have anything else that's come to fruition from past vision boards, Danette?
Yes. And this is the biggest, probably because it's so specific, but it was last year's vision board. And I ended up doing it actually for the company that I work with. We did like a vision board creation class, and a little unconventional for a a tech company, but it was really fun. And I ended up, the way that I do my vision boards is not like I know what I'm looking for and I have to find it. And this is very similar to my life. I get pulled by what I see. Right? I am like, oh, that resonates. Let me cut that out. And I have no idea why. It's just I'm pulled towards it. And so everyone does it differently. That's just my approach. And this specific thing, it was a number and it said 280 million. And I was like, well, that's a lot of money. And and I was like, I don't know, maybe it just, okay, I'll represent abundance. But I was like, I'm cutting this out. Like, there was no question about it. I knew I was cutting it out. I didn't really even question it too much. I just cut it out. I was like, this will mean something. That year, my company started the process of getting acquired. And the final amount that they were paid for the company was 280 million.
Chills. I love it.
Yeah. Call
it a synchronicity if you want. I choose to believe that we can affect the quantum.
Yeah. I choose. And it's actually, we can create it, we can predict it. Right. To me, that was more of a prediction. It had already happened. And then, if time is not linear, that acquisition already happened and I was feeling it and I was seeing it. And it's not, we can call it psychic, of course, but everyone has this ability. And so I think we were talking about last night, the fact that we have these different realities that are available to us, the butterfly effect, the domino effect. It changes. To me, it splits all these different realities that are possible. And it's up to us to channel our energy towards the reality we want the most.
Yeah. My favorite way of thinking in terms of our intuitive abilities, our psychic abilities, is described in Conversations with God. I'll be sure to link that in the show notes as well, where he says, time is not linear. Maybe you've heard of that concept before. I'm talking to my listeners. And yet everything is happening in the eternal now. It's all happening right now. There's no past, there's no future. That's just a Newtonian way of looking at things. The way that we experience psychic abilities is that there's like these sheets of paper stacked on top of each other. And those sheets of paper are moments in time stacked on like a spindle. So instead of going from like left to right, picture them like happening on top of each other, like right now. And people who can sense a future moment are really just having the imprint of that other sheet of paper that's already like stacked on top of now anyway. And if anyone is listening to this who's watched my TEDx talk, I tell a very, very novel story at the end of it about trusting my intuition. And it's in reference to a partner that I had when I was younger. We lived across the country from each other. We split when I was like 18. It was very hard for me to wrap my head around. He was my best friend all of high school. And I was heartbroken, and he wanted nothing to do with me. And then for 10 years, I had a dream about us reconnecting, not in a romantic way, but in like a reconciliation way. And I didn't tell this part in the TEDx because, got to maintain credibility. But this is true. This is a real part of the story. I had the exact same dream. He was wearing the same clothes, driving the same car, and we said the same things every single time I had that dream for 10 years. And then cut to 2015, I'm in his city for a conference, and I go and look him up online, and I show up at his office, and we haven't talked in 10 years. And he was wearing the exact same clothes that I had seen in my dream. He was driving the exact same car. We went out to lunch. He was like more than happy to see me. And it was the reconciliation I had dreamt about for 10 years. And I never had the dream again.
Wow.
And I call it prediction, call it manifestation, call it psychic, whatever. I trusted that this very audacious move of showing up at someone's work that you haven't talked to in 10 years, I just knew in my bones it was going to be fine. And I feel like those images in my mind either told me it was going to be fine or predicted it was going to be fine.
Yeah.
So I think we all have that ability if we're open to listening to it.
Yes. And I know we're going into abundance, and I think that this is linked. So I agree with this so wholeheartedly. And I think that's the power of the subconscious mind, right? You got it in a dream, and that's where dreams happen. So I've had these visions in meditation. That's accessing the subconscious mind. You could say that even when I'm doing a vision board, I go into a meditative state, right? When we close our eyes, when we do the internal work, this is how we manifest it, because we're not necessarily manifesting, we're choosing. You can call it manifesting, but we're choosing the future reality that is available. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
So to bring it back to abundance and choosing your future reality in ways that might be alternative, I wanted to talk about this sacred gifting economy that you and I have been a part of. I think this is, for me, part of being a coach is welcoming in a new paradigm and welcoming in a way of being, a brave path that not everyone is going to be willing to walk along, where we face our stuff, we choose different, we are open to change, right? Both in ourselves and in the people in our lives. And I think this sacred gifting economy that you and I have been a part of now for a couple of years is part of that. So do you want to share a little bit about what that means? And then we can talk about why we're so passionate about it. And anyone who's interested and has no idea what we're talking about, but is like, I want to know more, DM me on Instagram at the Kimberly Rich, and let's chat. Like, I'm happy to share anything and everything about it. But go ahead, Danette.
Yeah, it's a community of incredible women, and I recently just heard one of these elders in the community, and that's what I love about it too. It's all age ranges, and this woman called it a living spiritual workshop, and it really was such a beautiful way to describe what it is, because yes, it's a sacred gifting economy. Yes, we can understand that this is there's a financial component to it, where we're actually learning how to invest our money with each other and support each other and support each other's dreams, but also the side benefit of the different elements that we're moving through, which we move through fire, wind, earth, and water. And to me, I think the money part of it is important, but the elements is what really drew me in, and the spiritual component to processing those elements, going through the element of fire and experiencing the effect that it has on my life, right? That when I channel that energy of fire, how it supports me, how it starts rebirthing certain things in my life and getting things moving and growing and flowing. And just each element has been such a mini workshop, a spiritual workshop. And then also the thing that drew me in initially was the connection and bond with women that, as I said before, I was so focused on competing with men that I forgot about the value and just the beauty of having these strong bonds with women. And it's healing for me because, as I said, I betrayed my best friend. Right? It's very healing and therapeutic for me to reprioritize women in my life.
Yeah, and what I didn't mention is that is how Danette and I met. Was through this movement. Right. This conversation wouldn't be happening right now. We're sitting in different rooms for technology purposes, but I wouldn't be visiting her in Miami right now if it wasn't for this movement. And, one of our older guardian sisters is what they're called in the movement, shared a video recently about a community in Japan that's doing something really similar to this, where the women come together to take care of each other and help each other move towards goals that they have, dreams that they have, and understanding that it takes a village. And one of the things that was so impactful for me when I joined was that our friend Katrina, I got to support her in going to grad school for art in Denmark. Like, I've never been able to be that intimately involved in someone else's dreams before. And
that you are aware of.
That we all get true. So true. So true. Yes. And just to know that I too get to receive that level of support and community as I move through these different elements and come to face myself in the different, wind and fire and water. And it's just, for me, it's unlike anything that I'm seeing in the mainstream. And so getting to be a part of it and seeing that we're really creating a new earth with this movement has been so powerful for me. And so I wanted to mention it on today's podcast. I've never brought it up on the podcast before because I think it is it's still fringe, right?
Yeah.
And not everyone's ready to move into that level of generosity and trust and abundance. But for those of you who are listening who are, I invite you to DM me at least to get more information. Like I said, on Instagram, I'm at the Kimberly Rich, because it's been so life-changing for me and for Danette and for our friends that I can't not share it.
Thank you for doing that. And you're right, it is still fringe. There is still awkwardness, or even as far as shame in terms of bringing these things up, fear, just because it's not the mainstream. It hasn't been widely accepted.
Yeah.
And, I really want to speak on that just a bit if we have the time.
Totally.
The power that I received from admitting that I was already brainwashed, right? The ability to admit and surrender to the fact that I'm already brainwashed. Now, can I embrace that enough that I can actually look and see, how have I been brainwashed? What has my brain been washed with? And can I wash my brain with something of my choosing? Because it's going to be, the brain is going to be conditioned with something, some belief. That's how the brain works. It works with beliefs. People can tell me, no, I only believe in facts. I only know facts. No, even facts are still beliefs, because they've been proven until they're unproven, right? And then many people might hate the fact that I'm saying this, and I'm a huge lover of science, and it's been the thing that's kept me going in this work. And so I embrace when new studies come out. I embrace when new facts evolve and emerge. But we only know those facts from this tiny hole we're looking at them from. There's so much we don't know. And I love embracing that I don't know shit. And as much as I think I know, I'm only reaching the tip of the iceberg. So it keeps me humble. It keeps me curious. It keeps me in the mystery of it all. And it keeps me questioning my beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. If you were to give new coaches one piece of advice, one piece of encouragement or wisdom, as they're beginning their journey or as they're trying to grow their practice? Maybe they've been around for a while. What would it be?
Somatic work, body work. I've talked about compassionate inquiry. There's also something called internal family systems therapy. There's somatic therapy. I really say that without even hesitating, because in order for you to be of service to another person, we need to become as empty as possible. We need to be vessels. We need to be able to sit and be in the stillness and be able to observe when our body is triggered, when we are triggered. And that allows us to be accountable and allows us to not project on the people we coach and the different clients we may have. And so we become so much more valuable to the other person because they can feel our presence. And that's what everyone is searching for. They want someone to be present with them, not tell them how to fix themselves, not tell them that coming with that energy, to me, it only causes them to keep spinning in the cycle of there's something wrong with me. And so, of course, we're going to give, direction, ideas, different skills to learn. But when you have the presence of, you are great just as you are, and look at how present I can be with you because that's how fucking great you are, that changes people. And most importantly, it will help you heal if you do that. And that's the point, right? We can only help others if we're doing that for ourselves.
100%. Yeah, I think most people who are drawn to this work initially, it's because they found it so impactful and they know that it's a never-ending process. So for anyone who's listening that this has come up on a few coaching training calls, if you're listening and you have any fear around delivering massive transformation for someone and then them not signing with you again because they've gotten what they've come for, you're missing the mark. A, there's always growth that can happen. B, that is a great opportunity to look within and realize that you may have some dependence on the client and there's work for you as a coach to be doing there. And C, to remember that just as they always have work, you're always going to have work, and your clients are going to be just as much a gift for you and a mirror for you as you are for them. So it's a little bit of a tangent that I went on there, but I think that it's useful to remember that we're all doing this, for the rest of the time that we're on the planet.
That's an amazing point, and I think it's very easy to fall into that pattern when we get worried about finances or anything like that. I totally can see that, and I've experienced it. But I've also worked on experiencing the emotions of abundance, right? Letting that process in my body. For anyone who's ever heard of Joe Dispenza, he has some great meditations that can help with that, to really embody the emotions and the sensations of abundance, because that allows me to have the courage to move right through that thought, move right through it and say, no, I'm only limiting myself with that belief. There is so much more on the other side of that. And when I am doing my work with the integrity that I want to do it in, that's what helps me attract those clients. Right? So being deep in your integrity is going to build that clientele. And people feel that quality because you feel it. And they tell their friends and they tell their family, and that is your marketing. So, yeah.
Which brings up a really important point. Some of you may be listening and you know that you're out of integrity with yourself. Maybe you've broken promises to yourself so many times you've lost count. And so it's really hard to feel like you're in that place right now of like full knowing, full integrity, full trust with oneself. And so I want to share a very small, very easy exercise that I just learned about in a book called How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LePera. She's also known as the Holistic Psychologist on Instagram, millions of followers. She's really created a movement around a holistic approach to healing. And in her book, she shares, if you suffer from self-betrayal, then one of the ways to start to build trust again with yourself is to pick a very small, very achievable habit that you can commit to and then do it every day, that you can commit to and stick to. And the one that she uses as an example is just drinking a cup of water when you wake up, drinking a cup of water before you have your coffee. And I found that to be both healthy, helpful, and doable. So I've implemented it because I'm brave enough to admit that I'm not the most integrous person all the time. I'm an Enneagram 7. I'm a female. I can come up with a million excuses why I like to be all over the map. And yet I see the value in having a high level of integrity with myself, not just in emotional support, but also in like tangible real world practices. So that's the one I'm implementing. If you want to do it with me, I encourage you to message me. Let me know you've jumped on the water train.
I'm going to do it together. I love that one.
It felt so good this morning to wake up and be like, not coffee, yes, not yet.
Yes.
All right, Danette, where can people go get more of you? Where can they find you online?
My Instagram handle is Danette Torgeson, my full name. And I also have a website, DanetteTorgeson.com. And that's about all I use right now. So yeah, you can message me directly. I'm very approachable, and yeah, I'm willing to talk about anything, as you've probably seen so far.
Yeah. If you resonated with Danette's message, definitely go message her. She's one of the easiest people to be with, to connect with, to learn from, to feel safe with. So if you feel a call, trust that and go connect with her because she's incredible.
Thank you so much, Kim. I love the space you provide. Your energy is just a light beaming everywhere you go.
I love you. And that's coming from someone who has seen me at my lowest lows.
Doesn't matter.
So know that all of you is welcome. All of you is welcome. Yeah. Thank you, Danette. I love you so much.
Love you. Mwah.
Mwah.
Okay.
Thank you, listeners. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to episode 20 of the Profitable Coach podcast with Danette Torgeson. Again, if you want to get access to all the different resources that we talked about on today's episode, head to theprofitablecoach.com/020 for episode 20. And if you want to get more information about the movement of women supporting women that Danette and I mentioned, then follow me over on Instagram at @thekimberlyrich and just shoot me a message and let's chat. I love hearing what it is that you all need support with in your lives, in your businesses, and as coaches and individuals on the healing journey. So if you ever want to connect, please reach out to me. Please reach out to the TA team. We love hearing from you guys. And with that, I will see you on next week's episode.